Good morning, friends. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Sir Abdul Sattar Khan. 12th English 2.3 The Inchcape Rock, Brainstorming Activities and Question Answer. चलिए शुरुआत करते हैं 2.3 The Inchcape Rock, 12th English State Board Question Answer. Narrate in groups the scene described in the beginning of the poem. Complete the following statements. The abbot of Aberbrothock placed a bell on the Inchcape Rock because the mariners were grateful to the abbot of Aberbrothock because the result of the thick haze that covered the sky was that the rover in frustration pulled his hair and cursed himself because इसके आंसर्स है पहले का आंसर है the abbot was a kind-hearted and generous man and had placed the bell on the Inchcape Rock to prevent ships from getting shipwrecked during storms. The sound of the bell would send a signal warning to them to not sail towards that direction. Second, the mariners were grateful to the abbot of Aberbrothock because abbot had placed a buoy and fixed a bell on it near those rocks. If the sea was rough, sailors could spot the buoy. Even in the darkness, the rough seas made the bell ring. In this way, abbot helped sailors to save their ships from rocks. The result of the thick haze that covered the sky was that the sailors had no way of knowing in which direction they were sailing. Second, the rover in frustration pulled his hair and cursed himself because he himself had cut the bell which would have rang and would have helped them to save themselves from the rock. Given below are the events that give the theme of the poem in a jumbled form, arranged in a proper sequence as per their occurrence. इसका आंसर है The abbot of Aberbrothock had placed the bell on a buoy on the rock. Second, the waves were so small that they did not move enough to ring the bell at Inchcape Rock. उसके बाद में थर्ड है Ralph bent over from the boat. उसके बाद में फोर्थ है There was a thick haze spread over the atmosphere. Fifth है Sir Ralph cursed himself in despair and his frustration tore his hair. Describe the qualities of abbot of Aberbrothock in your own words. Qualities of the abbot of Aberbrothock: benevolent, big-hearted. Fourth, jealousy is the most incurable defect to justify. इसका आंसर है qualities of the abbot of Aberbrothock: benevolent, big-hearted, considerate, inspirational, vigilant, cooperative, leader. Jealousy is the most incurable defect. Robert Southey's poems were often deliver moral lessons. This poem is not an exception here. It shows us how jealousy is an incurable defeat of human character. People get jealous at others' success and achievements and pay the price themselves. It does not make them any better positioned in achieving something similar, but harm them in many ways. In the poem, Ralph the rover got jealous at the abbot's frame for putting a bell on the Inchcape Rock and passing ships and lot of lives in bad weather. He decides to cut the bell and put an end to the abbot's fame. He didn't mind that it would affect so many people and even himself in the long run. But at the end, he has to pay the price for his evil intention. The devil below the seas rang his death knell when his ship hit the rock by losing the way in bad weather. But the rover's mirth was wickedness. Explain this line in your own words with the help of the poem. Some words in the poem are related to different parts of a ship or a mariner's life. Given below are the meanings of those terms. Identify the words. But the rover's mirth was wickedness. The poet has said this line to indicate that the rover loved to enjoy a kind of evil pleasure by causing harm to others. To him, mirth was synonymous with wickedness. This is why he decided to cut the bell from Inchcape Rock and put the passing ships in danger and then loot them. He was jealous of the abbot who was blessed by grateful sailors. He wanted to trouble abbot. Qualities of words using for mariner's life: helps in steering the ship, wheel, the lowest part of the ship, keel, floating object that shows direction, buoy, another name for a ship, vessel, sinking, gurgling. Ballad. A ballad is a song that tells a story and it can be dramatic, funny, or romantic. Traditionally, the ballad has been considered a folklore verse narrative which has strong association with communal dancing. Generally, the term is used for a narrative poem which uses an elliptical and highly stylized mode of narration. The technique of repetition with variation may play an important part in it. From the 18th century onwards, collection of folk popular ballads began to be made. The form was taken up by some of the most influential poets of the late 18th century as a folkloric form of expression. A typical ballad consists of stanzas that contain a quatrain or four poetic lines. Some ballads have a refrain or a repeated chorus just like a song does. The rhyme scheme adds musical quality to the poem. One famous ballad is The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by English poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Select the appropriate figures of a speech from the box given below and complete the table. Metaphor, alliteration, repetition, personification, inversion, simile, apostrophe, onomatopoeia. Write an appreciation of the poem The Inchcape Rock. Compose 4 to 6 lines on C. Figures of speech, alliteration, the close repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words. Metaphor, Ralph imagined his death that devil ringing the bell. Inversion, order of words has been changed for poetic effect. Apostrophe, the speaker is addressing someone who is not there. Alliteration, sound as is repeated. Personification, the waves are personified. Personification, the fear is personified. Appreciation of the poem. About the poem, the title. The title of Robert Southey's poem Inchcape Rock is based on folk tales surrounding a real reef in Scotland named Inchcape Rock or the Bell Rock. This reef is located in North Sea of the coast of Angus County. The Inchcape Rock is a ballad. Abbot too expressed his good moral character and Sir Ralph expressed his evil character. Robert Southey was a poet laureate of England from 1813 to 1843. Some of his poems, including Inchcape Rock, are very popular with school children. Theme of the poem. Southey was inspired by the legendary story of pirate who removed the bell on the Inchcape Rock, placed by the abbot of Aberbrothock. The basic theme of the poem is that those who do wrong things will meet with due punishment. As you sow, so shall you reap. Poetic devices used in the poem. The Inchcape Rock is a ballad. It consists of 17 stanzas of 4 lines each. The rhyme scheme is AABB for each stanza. The poet has used number of figures of speeches in the poem like simile, metaphor, personification, alliteration, inversion, etc. The story is told in easy language. Poet has used many old English words. Poetic style. The poet has used eloquent and narrative techniques to augment the effect of the poem. The poem The Inchcape Rock provides a fine verbal image of the calm atmosphere of the sea. Then the Inchcape Rock is presented. The old abbot's plan of putting a bell. This way the ballad slithers from one incident to another very smoothly, providing a vivid picture into the reader's mind. Special features, novelties. The poem has written in a very simple language, therefore, it is easy to understand. The poet has used narrative and descriptive techniques to develop the poem. The poet provides verbal image of the calm atmosphere, and the Inchcape Rock is the symbol of goodness. Message, values, morals in the poem. This poem delivers the message that one should not willingly cause harm to others. If they do, they would be punished in the end. In other words, it's as you sow, so shall you reap. It is our work that pays back to us. Your opinion about the poem? This poem is a didactic poem where poet narrates a legendary story surrounding the Inchcape Rock. The abbot put a bell to the rock to alert the passing ships of the danger of the rock, but the rover got jealous and he cut the bell and finally punished for his wrong deed. So this poem delivers a great message that as you sow, so shall you reap. Compose 4 to 6 lines on sea. Come to the beach where the sea is blue and little white waves come running at you. A wave comes splashing over your toes. You just stand still and away it goes. We'll build a castle down by the sea and look for shells if you'll come with me. This poem is called The Beach. Expand the ideas on your own on the following topics. Pride goes before a fall. Time and tide wait for none. Man proposes, God disposes. Look before you leap. Pride goes before your fall इसका आंसर है pride here means to have too high an opinion of oneself, one's position and possessions. Some of us are blessed with certain qualities in the society. You can see some people, those who feel very proud about their qualities and talents. They feel that all others are inferior to them. This pride makes them blind, and as a result, they fall in their life. So we must know that we should not feel so pride because it always brings failure in our life. Instead of this, we should humble and kind in nature. We should never forget that pride will lead us unto the difficulties and dangers. Time and tide wait for none. Time and tide wait for none is a very important proverb which illustrates the value and importance of time. It realizes that nothing is more precious than time. Time and tide both never wait for anyone. We cannot stop the tide to occur in the sea. It occurs whenever it has to come. We cannot stop or store the time for further use. It continuously runs without any stoppage. It never follows anyone's order or never stops for anyone. Time destroys those who destroys the time like tides. Lost time never returns to us, so we should use it properly in right direction. We should be conscious always to make the best use of time we have. Opportunities comes to our way with time. However, do not knock the door all time. Success or failure in life depends on the way of use of the time to its best advantage. Idleness from our part may cost us very heavily. Idle people always waste their time and postpone things to do in failure. Time is very powerful and it punishes people who destroy it. Hardworking people always touch success because they make right use of the time. Man proposes, God disposes. Human beings can make any plans they want, but it's God that decides their success or failure. This proverb statement tells that whatever man proposes as his objective to achieve by exercising his willpower, efforts, and intellectual potentialities, there is a limit to his abilities and there is some supernatural power, God to determine the shape of things and its end. Sometimes or most of the time, the end may be against man's proposal. People very often use this statement during their conversation. Man can place before himself a lofty objective and can strive hard to achieve it by putting forth all his efforts and other possibilities, but there is a limit to man's abilities. It has been well said, there is a supernatural power that determines the shape of things, and that power, God shapes the end of our objectives too. Man can only proposes to achieve something and toil himself towards the achievement. Even the achievement itself is not in his hands. Of course, the ancient Greek critic Heresites says man is the architect of his destiny. Shakespeare in his tragedy plays 2 does not bring in fate or God as a power determining the shape of things. He introduces the element of chances that turns the course of the play. Anyhow, there is some power which shapes the end, and so it is very apt to say man proposes, God disposes. Look before you leap. This proverb means that every time we must think carefully about it when we should take action, because many times it happens that in anger we make something that makes us guilty. That's why we should look before we say something, as one time we say something then it will never come back. Some people act hastily, they make decisions without giving much thought. Later on, they repent on what they have done. It is for such people that saying, "Look before you lead" has been coined. The reason why we should look before we leap is because sometimes life represents us with difficult choices and it became hard for us to do or not to do that particular work. Impulsive action may lead us to trouble before doing something important. It is necessary to stop a while, think about the consequences, and then act. Your action generally irrevocable. Thoughtless or careless deeds are a sign of immaturity. If you want to be respected, you need to think hard before taking any step. The poem begins with, "Without either sign or sound of their shock, the waves flowed over the Inchcape rock." It ends with, "Till the vessel strikes with a shivering shock." On the basis of these lines, explain the change in mood of the poem. At the beginning of the poem, the season is spring, the weather is mild and the sea waters are calm. The waves poured softly over the Inchcape bell. The heavy bell on a buoy would ring due to strong waves in stormy weather. When the rower cut the bell, it was spring, and mood was happy and light-hearted. After undoing Abbott's good work, Rover went away to loot the ships. But when he was returning, wind was strong and atmosphere was confusing. They were really in dark and could hear waves crashing. There is fear, there was no wild wind, but rough sea was pulling their ships along. Finally, their ship shattered onto the rocks as the rover yelled and cursed. स्किल रिक्वायर्ड फॉर नवल रिलेटेड जॉब्स, करियर इन मर्चेंट नेवी। ये जॉइन इंडियन नेवी का एक प्रोजेक्ट है, ये आपको अपने तौर पर ख़ुद से करना है। इंफॉर्मेशन ब्राउचर बनाना है। उसके बाद में ये अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ फॉर वुमेन टू जॉइन इन द नेवी, वुमेन इन द नेवी, इसका एक एडवर्टाइजमेंट है। इसके ऊपर भी आपने अपना एक एक्टिविटी कंप्लीट करना है, प्रोजेक्ट है। ये भी कॉलेजेस दैट प्रोवाइड एजुकेशन इन ओशियानोग्राफी, ये इसका भी एक प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट करना है। उम्मीद है आपको हमारा वीडियो पसंद आया होगा। अगले वीडियो में दोबारा मुलाकात होगी। खुदा हाफिज़।